water to them, potable water, food, and for that matter, fuel. So much of the area is devastated. You mentioned the thousands of bodies that have washed ashore. It's believed that that happened. The tsunami wave, as gruesome as it is to think about it, the tsunami wave of some 27 feet or so washed in. Then as
All right, I think we just lost Shepard Smith, who is joining us from Tokyo. We'll get back to him along with our own very own Adam Housley in just a moment here. All right, we got Shep back. Shep, we lost you there for a second. Welcome back.
Yes, sorry, Sean. It's kind of a windy morning here in Tokyo, but I can tell you that it's believed that as that wave came in, it eventually washed livestock and homes and cars out with it, and then some of all of that has begun to wash ashore, and they believe some 1,000 to 2,000 people among those. Of course, that entire area is devastated, and they're not able to get shelter for the people who did survive, so they're working very hard to get food and water in there. It's supposed to start raining this afternoon, our time, probably 2 in the morning there, New York time. It's supposed to rain for the next day and a half, and that, if nothing else, should there be any sort of fallout, it would keep it from blowing in the air. But it doesn't help at all to get fuel, water, and food to the people who so desperately need it in that area. Imagine how overcrowded the roads are, how difficult it is to move in from different areas. The United States is providing helicopters, and Japanese services are doing so as well. They're asking people all across Japan, including right here in Tokyo, to conserve electricity, as 30% of all of Japan's electricity comes from nuclear power. They're asking that people cut back in a large way. In fact, this is a rainbow bridge behind me in Tokyo, which is lit up every night of the year. That and Tokyo's Central Square, which is somewhat like Times Square, were both shut down in dark last night and expected to be tonight. In fact, Sean, they were talking about for the next 6 weeks the possibility of rolling blackouts just so that they don't face an electricity crisis here. It's one crisis, the earthquake, on top of another, the tsunami, and now another with the nuclear crisis. It's hard to imagine going through anything much worse than this.
Shep, I agree with your assessment, but you look at the food, water, and obviously the humanitarian needs, the loss of life, and on top of that, you got aftershocks coming in pretty large numbers and more expected within days, on top of the fear that there is a greater radiation leak than has previously been reported.
That's true, and of course the greatest concern is not so much the radiation leaks that may or may not have happened to now, but what the future holds. Because if they're not able to keep water on those nuclear fuel rods, which they hope they will, but if they're not able to do that and it penetrates that outer containment dome, then they'll have some very serious problems indeed. You mentioned the fact the humanitarian crisis that's ongoing. We're 4 days into this now. And in some areas, they're just frankly out of food and water. And it's not as if you can just drive to another area to get those sorts of things. Roads are covered. It's just an enormous challenge.
Well, and it's all obviously the world community stepping in as much as possible. As you meet people and run into people, Shep, how are they coping?
You know, I've gone to and visited natural disasters and man-made disasters all over the world, and one thing you hear about the Japanese culture is that they're very calm, and that is absolutely the case here. There is absolutely no panic of any kind in and around Tokyo. We're staying at a very nice hotel here where we've set up as we work to make our way up the coast, and breakfast is being served, and people are milling about. The local television stations are on, and it feels in many ways like just another day. Just over here behind the camera is a shopping mall with a Toys R Us and a Babies R Us and coffee shops and the rest. There are signs up that indicate the stores may be opening late today because of the electricity shortage and all the rest. But people are still milling about and going to work. There's no panic at all. In the areas where they're going to get food and clothing and shelter, the lines are forming orderly like Space Mountain at Disneyland, quite frankly. It's as orderly and calm and precise as anything you could ever imagine. In Tokyo itself, no signs that anything has happened at all. Just before sunrise this morning, there was a 4.1 earthquake here, which is, of course, an aftershock. We felt it. They reported it, but it was as if nothing happened, and people continued about their normal lives. The one thing that is a bit disruptive, Sean, is, the vast majority of the travel around here is done by mass transit. Trains are, in some cases, affected by these rolling blackouts. The electricity shortage is a real problem for mass transit. Aside from that, it's as calm as any day in any big city in the world.
All right, Shep Smith reporting in Japan tonight, host of Fox Report in Studio B. Shep, thanks so much for your assessment. We appreciate it.
You bet.
And still ahead, could America's West Coast be the site of the next big quake? We have alarming video of what that catastrophe could look like. But first, we'll have the very latest on the potential nuclear meltdown that some fear could be imminent at this Japanese power plant. That and much more as our coverage continues.
To the 5